Welcome, everybody, to another deep dive
Yes.
into some pretty fascinating stuff.
Absolutely.
Today, we're going to be talking about international debt.
Right?
And our source
Yes.
is hot off the press. It's the International Debt Report 2024
That's right.
from the World Bank.
Yeah, this report's
Yeah.
chock full of data and analysis.
So our mission today
Right.
is to figure out what's going on
Yeah.
with this debt situation in developing countries.
Yeah, and I think this report really helps us connect, like global finance to what's happening on the ground.
And I think one thing I'm really excited to talk about is how, the lenders are changing.
Oh, yeah.
And also, debt for climate swaps.
Oh, that's a fascinating...
We'll get to
Yeah,
a
definitely.
little later.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess first, what's the big picture here?
Well, the big picture is the total external debt of low and middle income countries reached $8.8 trillion US dollars in 2023.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Trillion with a T.
Trillion with a T. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
It's a lot of zeros.
I mean, what does that mean for those countries?
So it's helpful to look at the debt burden,
Okay.
which is how much a country owes compared to its national income.
Okay, so how much debt I have
Yeah.
versus how much I make.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if your debt is way higher than your salary,
Right.
that's a tough situation, right? That's a heavy burden to carry.
So are a lot of countries kind of in that situation?
Yeah, especially the poorest countries, the ones that are eligible for the World Bank's International Development Association,
Okay.
or IDA.
Yeah.
Their debt burdens are rising sharply.
Oh, so it's getting worse.
It's getting worse, yeah.
And I feel like the report, shows this visually, right?
Yeah. Figure 1.2 in the report really shows this.
Okay.
It shows this, dramatic increase in debt for
Yeah.
IDA countries.
Compared to everyone else.
Yeah, compared to other low and middle income countries,
Yeah.
you can really see the gap widening over time.
Okay.
It's a pretty stark picture.
So what does that actually mean? What's the impact of that?
Well, think about it this way.
Okay.
If a big chunk of a country's income is going toward debt payments,
Right.
that leaves less money to invest in things like healthcare,
Okay.
education, infrastructure.
They can't build new things they need.
Yeah, the new hospital that they desperately need might not get built.
Wow.
The roads that could connect farmers to markets
Yeah.
might stay unpaved.
So it's not just numbers on a spreadsheet.
It's not just numbers,
Yeah.
it's people's lives.
But they're opportunities.
Yeah, it's about having a better life.
Exactly.
So who is lending all this money?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Is it who we think it is?
It's changing.
Okay.
It's not who you might expect.
Okay.
So in 2022 and 2023.
We actually saw private creditors pulling back.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they're getting a little...
So the big banks.
Yeah, the big banks and corporations.
They're ooh, this is risky.
Yeah, they're getting a little risk averse.
Okay.
Especially with all the economic uncertainty in the world.
So if they're pulling back,
Yeah.
who's stepping in?
That's where multilateral institutions like the World Bank come in.
Okay.
They've essentially become the lenders of last resort.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're stepping up
Oh.
to provide financing
Yeah.
when others are hesitating.
So that must be a big responsibility for them?
It is a big responsibility.
Yep.
And FESR 1.4 in the report shows just how much their lending has increased.
Oh, okay.
Especially during times of economic slowdown.
So they're the safety net almost.
Yeah, they're kind of the safety net.
Okay.
And that raises some interesting questions about
Yeah.
whether this is a sustainable situation in the long run.
So we have to figure that out.
We do, yeah. It's a key question.
Well, I guess even if countries are borrowing responsibly, they still have to pay that money back, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Debt payments still have to be made.
Yeah.
And that's where things can get really tough,
Okay.
especially in the current global climate.
Yeah, I feel like I keep hearing about rising interest rates and how that makes it harder.
Rising interest rates are a big problem
Yeah.
for countries with a lot of debt
Yeah.
because it makes those debt payments even more expensive.
Yeah, my credit card bill
And
is suddenly way more expensive.
It's like your credit card bill on a national scale.
Yeah.
And figure 1.7 in the report actually shows this quite nicely.
Okay.
It shows how interest rates for private lending
Okay.
are generally higher than those from official sources,
Oh, interesting.
like the World Bank.
Okay.
So if a country is heavily reliant on private loans,
Yeah.
those rising interest rates can really squeeze their budget.
It's a double whammy.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a double whammy.
So there's like...
And this brings us to a really important concept called net transfers.
Net transfers.
Yeah.
Okay, break it down for me.
All right, so imagine you have a leaky bucket, okay?
Okay, have a leaky bucket.
Water's flowing in from the top.
Right.
But it's also leaking out from the bottom.
Okay.
Net transfers are like measuring the difference between the water flowing in and the water leaking out.
Okay.
So are you gaining water overall or are you losing it?
Got it. Okay.
Right. So
in terms of international debt,
yeah.
Who's pouring in the water and who's got the leaky bucket?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Well, figure 1.7 veto in the report shows us that private creditors have actually been taking out more in debt service payments from low and middle income countries than they've been putting in as new loans.
Oh, so they're taking money out.
Yeah, their bucket's got a big hole in it. Yeah, they're taking the bucket with them.
They're taking the bucket with them.
Wow.
It's a striking visual.
It really shows you like what's happening.
Yeah, it highlights the imbalance between what's flowing in and what's flowing out.
So if they're taking money out, then who's putting money in?
Well, that's where official institutions like the World Bank come in again.
Okay.
They're often the ones who are willing to take on more risk and provide loans, even when private lenders are shying away.
Wow. Okay.
So it's an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, they're really playing a crucial role.
They are. Yeah. But it raises questions about sustainability in the long term.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I think one thing that would help
is
if we just knew more about what was going on.
You're talking about transparency.
Transparency, yeah.
Yeah, transparency is crucial.
It's got to be like
it's essential.
The foundation of like a healthy debt system, right?
Both borrowers and lenders need to have a clear picture of what's going on.
So like, how can you manage your finances if you don't know how much you owe?
Yeah, it's like managing your finances with a blindfold on.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So are we seeing progress?
Right. I are seeing some progress, actually.
Right.
The World Bank has this great tool called the Debt Reporting Heat Map.
Okay.
And it tracks how well countries are doing on disclosing their debt data.
Cool.
And we're actually seeing more and more countries stepping up their game.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a positive trend.
So more transparency.
More transparency. It's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have transparency, and then we also have these debt for climate swaps.
Oh, yes. Those are fascinating.
Yeah. Tell me more about those.
So these are mechanisms that allow countries to kind of tackle their debt burdens and their environmental challenges at the same time.
Okay, so they can reduce their debt
by investing in
environmental projects.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so it's a win-win.
Win-win.
Yeah.
Okay, and are there like examples of this?
There are some great examples.
Yeah.
Belize, Ecuador, Gabon.
Oh.
They've all implemented these swaps with really impressive results.
Wow, I'm excited to hear more about those.
Yeah, we can dig into those a bit later.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, this is just the tip of the iceberg.
It is. There's a lot more to unpack here.
But we will do that next time.
We will.
Stay tuned.
Absolutely. Welcome back to our deep dive into the world of international debt.
We're back, and we're ready to dig in deeper into this International Debt Report 2024.
Deeper, we're going to zoom in a little bit.
Yeah, like last time we were looking at the big picture.
The big picture, the global view.
Now I kind of want to see like what's happening in different regions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's travel the world. But instead of souvenirs, we're collecting debt statistics.
I like that. Okay.
Yeah. So, for example, Sub-Saharan Africa has actually seen the largest increase in total external debt stock.
Oh, wow.
Hitting a record high in 2023.
So they're not doing too well.
Not doing too well, no.
It's like, what's going on there?
Well, a lot of things are happening. Yeah. It's kind of a perfect storm of challenges. You know, they've been hit by the pandemic, commodity price shocks, rising global interest rates.
Right, everything we've been talking about.
All of these things have really strained government finances, making them more reliant on borrowing.
So it's like a domino effect.
It is, yeah. One thing knocks into another, pushing up those debt levels.
Okay, so not every region is in trouble, right?
Not every region, no.
Yeah.
There are some brighter spots.
Oh, good.
Yeah, for example, East Asia and the Pacific, excluding China, actually saw a slight decrease in their debt to GNI ratio.
Okay, now remind me what that is again.
All right, so debt to GNI ratio.
Yeah.
Think of it like a country's financial report card.
Okay.
It compares how much a country owes to how much it earns.
Okay.
So a lower ratio generally means a country's in a healthier financial position.
Okay, so East Asia and the Pacific, they're doing okay.
They're doing all right, yeah.
What are they doing right?
Well, they've had some pretty robust economic growth in countries like Indonesia and Vietnam. And that's really helping to offset their debt burdens.
So growth is good.
Growth is good.
That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Okay, what about Latin America and the Caribbean?
That region's a bit of a mixed bag. They've been walking a tightrope for a while now. Their average debt-to-GNI ratio has remained pretty high, around 50%. And some countries, like Argentina and Ecuador, are facing some persistent economic difficulties.
So it sounds like debt sustainability is a real concern there.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Okay, well, amidst all of this, like, does the report offer any solution?
Yeah, it does. It emphasizes the importance of good debt management.
Okay, so it's not just how much you borrow.
It's not just how much you borrow.
But how you handle it.
It's how you manage it.
Yeah.
It's like personal finance, but on a national scale.
Right.
You know, if you're going to take out a loan, make sure it's for a good reason.
Yeah.
Make sure you can afford the payments.
Right.
And have a plan to pay it back.
It's common sense.
Common sense.
Yeah.
But it applies to countries as well.
So what does, like, good debt management?
Yeah, so good debt management involves a few things. Borrowing prudently, investing in projects that generate economic returns, and strengthening your debt management institutions.
So you have people who know what they're doing.
Exactly. You need experts, you need strong institutions, and of course, you need transparency.
Transparency.
It all comes back to transparency.
Okay, we're seeing a theme here.
Yeah, it's a key theme throughout the report.
So we talked about those negative net transfers.
Yes.
From private creditors to LMICs.
Yes, that's a real concern.
What can we do about that?
Well, we need to find ways to encourage more responsible investment. Investment that benefits both investors and the countries they're investing in.
So not just taking the money and running.
Exactly. It shouldn't be a zero-sum game.
Right.
We need to create a win-win situation.
Okay, so while we're figuring that out,
yeah,
it seems like those official creditors are stepping up.
They are stepping up, yeah. Figure 1.1a actually shows this. It shows how net transfers from multilateral creditors have stayed positive over the past decade.
Wow.
Even as private creditors have pulled back.
So they're, like, filling the gap.
They are filling the gap. They're providing essential financing for development.
Awesome.
So it's a positive trend.
But does that put a lot of pressure on them?
It does put pressure on them.
Yeah.
You know, they have to manage their resources effectively and make sure that the lending is really supporting sustainable development.
Right. So it's a balance.
It's a balancing act for sure.
Well, I'm glad they're there.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah.
It's essential to have these institutions that are committed to supporting development.
Okay, so we talked about regions.
Yes.
We talked about
lenders.
Lenders, yeah. But, like, how does all this actually affect
how does this affect
governments
on the ground?
Yeah. That's a great question.
Like, where does the rubber meet the road here?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And box 1.8 in the report really delves into this.
It looks at the relationship between external debt service and government spending in key areas like agriculture, environmental protection, education, health. And what it finds is there's a negative correlation there.
Okay, so, like, if your debt payments go up,
then
your spending on those things goes down.
Your spending on those essential services tends to go down.
Oh, that's not good.
Not good, no.
So it's like...
It's a classic case of robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah.
Right. And it creates this vicious cycle where high debt burdens force governments to cut back on the very investments that are crucial for long-term development.
It's like shooting yourself in the foot.
It is. It's self-defeating.
Yeah.
And the report actually visualizes this in figure B 1.8.1. It shows very clearly how government spending in those key areas declines. As debt payments rise.
Okay, so it's like a real problem.
It's a real problem.
Yeah. Yeah, not just like a theory.
Not a theory.
So are there any success stories? Like,
there are success stories, absolutely. Wow. There are countries that are managing their debt effectively and still investing in their people. And many of those success stories involve a combination of responsible borrowing, strategic debt management, and you guessed it, transparency.
There it is again.
Transparency. Transparency is key.
So transparency is good.
Transparency is good.
I think that's the message I'm getting here.
That's a good takeaway.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and the report highlights some positive impacts. of the World Bank's Sustainable Development Finance Policy,
Okay.
which encourages countries to be more transparent.
So that's helpful.
It is helpful.
Yeah.
It provides incentives for countries to do the right thing.
Oh.
And we're seeing results.
Awesome.
Yeah, that debt reporting heat map is showing us that more and more countries are embracing transparency.
That's great.
It's great, yeah.
Okay, but what about the private creditors?
The private creditors, they're a bit trickier.
Yeah.
But there are some positive signs.
Okay.
The report highlights the efforts of the International Institute of Finance, which has a lot of big banks as members.
Okay.
And they're promoting greater disclosure.
Okay, so they're trying to get them.
They're trying to nudge them.
Yeah, to be more transparent.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's a good sign.
It's a good sign.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get back to these debt for climate swaps.
The debt for climate swaps, yes.
Those are so interesting.
They are. They are.
Okay,
so box 1.7 in the report really explains how these work.
Okay.
So countries can basically repurchase their debt at a discount in exchange for investing in climate projects.
It's like refinancing your house.
It's like refinancing your mortgage. Yeah.
At a better rate.
At a better rate.
Yeah. And then you use the savings.
And you use the savings to put solar panels on your roof.
Do something good.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
So some good examples. Yeah. Belize is protecting its marine environment.
Yeah.
Ecuador is doing great work in the Galapagos Islands.
Wow. Okay.
It's really inspiring to see these swaps in action.
Yeah, but I mean, they're not perfect, right?
They're not a magic bullet.
Okay.
No, they're complex.
Yeah.
They can be tricky to implement.
Okay.
And they might not be suitable for every country or every type of debt.
So it's a tool in the toolbox.
It's a tool in the toolbox, but not a cure-all.
Okay. Yeah. But I think it's a sign that
it's a sign
people are thinking differently.
People are thinking differently. They're recognizing
about these issues.
That we need to find creative solutions that address both economic and environmental challenges.
It's all connected.
All connected.
Yeah. So I think that leads us to like the bigger picture.
The bigger picture.
Of what needs to happen.
We need a more robust and equitable system of development finance.
Okay, so we need to reform the system.
Reform the system.
Sure. Not just like...
Not just little tweaks here and there.
Yeah, little tweaks, yeah.
You need a fundamental overhaul.
Okay.
We need to move beyond short-term fixes.
Okay.
And create a system that supports long-term sustainable development.
So people and planet over profit.
People and planet over profit.
Okay, that's a good
motto.
Yeah.
That's a good guiding principle.
All right, so how do we do that?
Well, the report offers some concrete suggestions.
Okay, let's hear them.
So, first of all, debt relief.
Debt relief, okay.
For countries facing unsustainable debt burdens.
Okay.
We need to find ways to ease the financial pressure.
So they can breathe?
So they can breathe and invest in their future.
Okay, and how do we do that?
Well, that could involve restructuring existing debts.
Okay.
Providing grants instead of loans. Exploring innovative mechanisms. Like debt for development swaps.
Okay, so basically, creditors need to be willing.
Creditors need to be willing
to take a little bit of a hit.
To share the burden.
Yeah.
To prioritize the long-term sustainability of the system.
It's a big ask.
It is a big ask, but it's ultimately in everyone's best interest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so debt relief, and then what else?
Well, we also need responsible lending practices.
Okay, so like what does that look like?
Lenders need to be responsible.
Yeah.
They need to assess a country's debt-carrying capacity.
Okay.
They need to avoid lending that could push a country into unsustainable debt.
Right, so not just giving loans to anyone who asks.
Exactly.
Exactly.
It's about being prudent. It's about being responsible.
Yeah, and transparency.
And transparency.
There it is again.
We can't escape transparency.
All right, so we have debt relief.
Yeah. We have responsible lending.
Responsible
We have transparency.
Transparency.
But that's not all, right?
Not quite, no. We also need to strengthen debt management institutions.
Okay, so like helping countries manage their debt better.
Exactly. Build their capacity to handle debt wisely.
Okay, so like training programs.
Training programs, technical assistance.
Yeah.
Sharing best practices.
Okay, so they know what they're doing.
They know what they're doing, yeah.
Okay.
It's about empowering countries to manage their own finances effectively.
And we need cooperation.
Absolutely. We can't do this alone.
Right.
This is a global challenge that requires global solutions.
Okay, so what's standing in our way?
Well, there are a few roadblocks.
Okay.
One big one is the lack of a comprehensive international framework for debt restructuring.
Okay, so we need like clear rules.
Clear rules, clear procedures for how to handle debt crises
in a fair and efficient manner.
Makes sense.
Yeah, the current system is kind of ad hoc.
Okay.
It's messy.
Okay.
It's time-consuming.
Okay.
And that can actually make debt crises worse.
So we're not equipped to deal with this.
We're not as equipped as we could be.
Yeah. Okay.
So a clear framework is essential.
Okay. So framework.
And transparency.
Transparency.
Transparency from private creditors.
They just keep popping up.
It's the key. It's the foundation of a healthy system.
So we need them to be more open.
More open, more transparent about their lending activities.
And are they willing to do that?
Well, some are.
Okay.
You know, there's movement in the right direction.
Okay.
The International Institute of Finance is doing some good work there.
So there's hope.
There's hope.
Okay.
Yeah.
What other challenges are there?
Well, the debt landscape is getting more complex.
Okay.
We're seeing new lenders pop up all the time.
Oh, like who?
You know, sovereign wealth funds.
Private equity firms.
Okay.
Even cryptocurrency platforms.
Oh, wow.
It's a bit of a Wild West out there.
Okay, so we need to keep track.
We need to keep track. We need better data.
Yeah.
We need more coordination
to
understand what's happening in this evolving landscape.
Okay.
And ultimately, we need political will.
Right, because if people don't care...
If there's no political will, then nothing's going to happen.
Exactly.
Yeah, so we need leaders to step up and prioritize this issue.
Okay, so cooperation.
Political will.
And transparency. The three pillars.
The three pillars of a sustainable debt system.
All right, well, we have a lot to think about.
We do.
And I'm excited to talk about what all of this means for our listeners in the next part.
Let's bring it all home.
Yeah, let's bring it home.
In part 3.
Welcome back to our deep dive.
We're in the final stretch now.
We are.
It's part 3. Part 3.
Of our
look at...
the International Debt Report 2024.
Yeah, it's been a really fascinating report to go through.
Yeah, and I think we've learned a lot.
We have. We've unearthed some real gems of insight here.
But, you know, sometimes when we talk about trillions of dollars and all this global finance, it can feel like really distant.
It can, yeah.
You know, like, what does this have to do with me sitting here drinking my coffee?
Right, exactly. How does it affect my life?
Exactly.
And that's what we're going to talk about today.
Hey, like, bring it home.
Bring it home, yeah.
So
connect the dots.
Yeah, connect the dots.
Between these global trends and our everyday lives.
Okay, so give me an example. Like, how could a debt crisis...
Okay, so imagine this.
Yeah.
A debt crisis in some far-off country.
Okay.
How could that affect you right here, right now?
Yeah.
Well, think about the products you buy.
Okay.
The clothes you wear.
Yeah.
The food you eat.
Yeah.
A lot of these things come from developing countries.
Okay.
Right.
Right.
And the economic health of those countries directly impacts global supply chains and prices.
So, if a country's in trouble...
If a country is struggling with a huge debt burden, it can disrupt production.
Okay.
It can lead to shortages, delays.
All the supply chain issues we saw during the pandemic.
I remember those.
Yeah.
Debt crises can make those things worse.
Wow. Okay. So
that's all connected.
It's all connected.
We're living in a globalized world.
Right. So it's not just like a far-off problem.
It's not a far-off problem.
Yeah. It affects us all.
And what about the people who live in those countries?
Right. What about the human cost of all of this?
Yeah.
So imagine a government that has to slash its budget because a huge chunk of its revenue is going towards debt repayment. What gets cut?
Right.
Essential services.
It's like what?
Healthcare, education, social safety nets.
So, like, kids can't go to school.
Kids might not have access to quality schooling.
Hospitals might not have enough.
Hospitals might be understaffed, under-resourced.
Okay.
People might not have a safety net
to
fall back on.
So it's really like impacting
people's lives.
Their daily lives.
Yeah, it's keeping them in poverty.
Yeah, it perpetuates poverty.
Yeah.
It hinders progress.
Yeah.
It's a real tragedy.
It is.
And that's why finding solutions to this debt challenge is so crucial.
Right. So it's not just about the money.
It's not just about the money.
Yeah.
It's about people's lives.
It's about human rights.
It's about human rights.
Yeah.
It's about creating a world
where
everyone has a chance to thrive.
I like it.
Not just survive.
Thrive. Okay, so we've talked about, like, the big solutions.
Yeah, like debt relief and stuff.
Debt relief, responsible lending.
Transparency.
Yeah.
But what can, like, individual investors do?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And I think this is where responsible investment comes in.
Okay, so tell me about that.
So it's about moving beyond just maximizing profits and thinking about the social and environmental impact.
Okay, so like, where is my money going?
Where is your money going?
Yeah.
Is it supporting projects that benefit communities, that create jobs, that protect the environment?
So thinking beyond just
the bottom line.
Yeah, the bottom line.
Yeah, and I think that requires a shift in mindset from both investors and governments.
So we all need to change how we think about this.
We need a new paradigm for development finance.
Okay, well, that brings me to our listeners.
Yeah, what can our listeners do?
Yeah, like, what can they do?
Right. They might feel like their actions are just a drop in the ocean.
Right.
But trust me, every action counts.
Okay.
So support companies that are committed to responsible investment.
Okay.
Advocate for policies that promote sustainable development.
So, like, be an active citizen.
Be an active citizen. Stay informed.
Okay.
These issues are complex.
Yeah.
But they're not impossible to understand. So learn about them.
Learn about them.
Talk about them.
Yeah.
And use your voice.
Use your voice.
And your choices to push for a more just and equitable world.
I like that.
So
be conscious consumers.
Be conscious consumers.
Yeah.
Be informed citizens.
Informed citizens.
And be engaged investors.
Okay.
It all makes a difference.
Okay. So
I think that's the key takeaway from our deep dive today.
Yeah, it might seem complicated.
International debt is complex.
Yeah.
But it's not insurmountable.
Right.
We can tackle this if we work together.
So we have the power.
We have the power.
To make a difference.
Absolutely. We have the knowledge. We have the tools. We have the resources.
Yeah.
We just need the will.
We just need to do it.
We need to do it.
Okay, well, on that note.
Yeah.
This has been a really...
it's been a great conversation.
Yeah, a really fascinating deep dive.
Fascinating. Yeah.
Into this report.
And we hope our
listeners feel empowered.
Yeah, feel like...
To learn more, to get involved. Yeah. To make a difference.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And we'll see you next time.